1 Kings, chapter 19. Now Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, The gods do so to me, and more also, if I make not thy life like one of their lives by tomorrow this time. When he saw that, he arose, and went for his life, and came to Beersheba, which is in Judah, and left his servant there. But he went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree, and desired that he might die, and said, It is now enough, O Lord. Take my soul, for I am no better than my fathers. And as he lay and slept under the juniper tree, behold, now an angel touched him, and said unto him, Up and eat. And when he looked about, behold, there was a cake baken on the coals, and a pot of water at his head. So he did eat and drink, and returned and slept. And the angel of the Lord came again the second time, and touched him, and said, Up and eat, for thou hast a great journey. Then he arose, and did eat and drink, and walked in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights, unto Horeb, the mount of God. And there he entered into a cave, and lodged there. And behold, the Lord spake to him, and said unto him, What doest thou here, Elijah? And he answered, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, broken down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, Come out, and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord went by, and a mighty strong wind rent the mountains, and brake the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind came an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake came fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a still and soft voice. And when Elijah heard it, he covered his face with his mantle, and went out, and stood in the entering of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him, and said, What doest thou here, Elijah? And he answered, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, cast down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And the Lord said unto him, Go, return by the wilderness unto Damascus, and when thou comest there, anoint Hazael king over Aram. And Jehu the son of Nimshi shalt thou anoint king over Israel. And Elisha the son of Shaphat of Abel-Meholah shalt thou anoint to be prophet in thy room. And him that escapeth from the sword of Hazael shall Jehu slay. And him that escapeth from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha slay. Yet will I leave 7,000 in Israel, even all the knees that have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth that hath not kissed him. So he departed thence, and found Elisha the son of Shaphat, who was plowing, with 12 yoke of oxen before him, and was with the 12th. And Elijah went towards him, and cast his mantle upon him. And he left the oxen, and ran after Elijah, and said, Let me, I pray thee, kiss my father and my mother, and then I will follow thee. Who answered him, Go, return, for what have I done to thee? And when he went back again from him, he took a couple of oxen, and slew them, and sawed their flesh with the instruments of the oxen, and gave unto the people, and they did eat. Then he arose, and went after Elijah, and ministered unto him. 2 Kings chapter 2. And when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. Then Elijah said to Elisha, Tarry here, I pray thee, for the Lord hath sent me to Bethel. But Elisha said, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. So they came down to Bethel. And the children of the prophets that were at Bethel came out to Elisha, and said unto him, Knowest thou that the Lord will take thy master from thine head this day? And he said, Yea, I know it. Hold ye your peace. Again Elijah said unto him, Elisha, tarry here, I pray thee, for the Lord hath sent me to Jericho. But he said, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. So they came to Jericho. And the children of the prophets that were at Jericho came to Elisha, and said unto him, Knowest thou that the Lord will take thy master from thine head this day? And he said, Yea, I know it. Hold ye your peace. Moreover, Elijah said unto him, Tarry, I pray thee, here, for the Lord hath sent me to Jordan. But he said, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. So they went both together. And 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood on the other side, afar off, and they too stood by Jordan. Then Elijah took his cloak, and wrapped it together, and smote the waters, and they were divided hither and thither, and they twain went over on the dry land. Now when they were passed over, Elijah said unto Elisha, Ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let thy spirit be double upon me. And he said, Thou hast asked an hard thing. Yet if thou see me when I am taken from thee, thou shalt have it so. And if not, it shall not be. And as they went walking and talking, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire, and horses of fire, and did separate them twain. So Elisha went up by a whirlwind into heaven. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, My father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more. And he took his own clothes, and rent them in 2 pieces. He took up also the cloak of Elijah, that fell from him, and returned, and stood by the bank of Jordan. After, he took the cloak of Elijah, that fell from him, and smote the waters, and said, Where is the Lord God of Elijah? And so he also, after he had stricken the waters, so that they were divided this way and that way, went over, even Elisha. And when the children of the prophets, which were at Jericho, saw him on the other side, they said, The spirit of Elijah doeth rest on Elisha. And they came to meet him, and fell to the ground before him, and said unto him, Behold now, there be with thy servants 50 strong men. Let them go, we pray thee, and seek thy master. If so be the Spirit of the Lord hath taken him up, and cast him upon some mountain, or into some valley. But he said, Ye shall not send. Yet they were instant upon him, till he was ashamed. Wherefore he said, Send. So they sent 50 men, which sought 3 days, but found him not. Therefore they returned to him, for he tarried at Jericho. And he said unto them, Did not I say unto you, Go not? And the men of the city said unto Elisha, Behold, we pray thee, The situation of this city is pleasant, as thou, my lord, seest, but the water is not, and the ground barren. Then he said, Bring me a new cruse, and put salt therein. And they brought it to him. And he went unto the spring of the waters, and cast there the salt, and said, Thus saith the Lord, I have healed this water, death shall no more come thereof, neither barrenness to the ground. So the waters were healed unto this day, according to the word of Elisha, which he had spoken. And he went up from thence unto Bethel. And as he was going up the way, little children came out of the city, and mocked him, and said unto him, Come up, thou bald head, come up, thou bald head. And he turned back, and looked on them, and cursed them in the name of the Lord. And 2 bears came out of the forest, and tore in pieces 42 children of them. So he went from thence to Mount Carmel, and from thence he returned to Samaria. 2 Kings chapter 3. Now Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel in Samaria the 18th year of Jehoshaphat king of Judah, and reigned 12 years. And he wrought evil in the sight of the Lord, but not like his father, nor like his mother. For he took away the image of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he cleaved unto the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin, and departed not therefrom. Then Mesha, king of Moab, had store of sheep, and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 rams, with the wool. But when Ahab was dead, the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. Therefore King Jehoram went out of Samaria the same season, and numbered all Israel, and went and sent to Jehoshaphat king of Judah, saying, The king of Moab hath rebelled against me. Wilt thou go with me to battle against Moab? And he answered, I will go up, for I am as thou art, my people as thy people, and mine horses as thine horses. Then said he, What way shall we go up? And he answered, The way of the wilderness of Edom. So went the king of Israel, and the king of Judah, and the king of Edom. And when they had compassed the way 7 days, they had no water for the host, nor for the cattle that followed them. Therefore the king of Israel said, Alas, that the Lord hath called these 3 kings, to give them into the hand of Moab. But Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here a prophet of the Lord, that we may inquire of the Lord by him? And one of the king of Israel's servants answered, and said, Here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat, which poured water on the hands of Elijah. Then Jehoshaphat said, The word of the Lord is with him. Therefore the king of Israel, and Jehoshaphat, and the king of Edom, went down to him. And Elisha said unto the king of Israel, What have I to do with thee? Get thee to the prophets of thy father, and to the prophets of thy mother. And the king of Israel said unto him, Nay, for the Lord hath called these 3 kings, to give them into the hand of Moab. Then Elisha said, As the Lord of hosts liveth, in whose sight I stand, if it were not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, I would not have looked toward thee, nor seen thee. But now bring me a minstrel. And when the minstrel played, the hand of the Lord came upon him, and he said, Thus saith the Lord, Make this valley full of ditches. For thus saith the Lord, Ye shall neither see wind nor see rain, yet the valley shall be filled with water, that ye may drink, both ye and your cattle, and your beasts. But this is a small thing in the sight of the Lord, for he will give Moab into your hand. And ye shall smite every strong town, and every chief city, and shall fell every fair tree, and shall stop all the fountains of water, and mar every good field with stones. And in the morning, when the meat offering was offered, behold, there came water by the way of Edom, and the country was filled with water. And when all the Moabites heard that the kings were come up to fight against them, they gathered all that was able to put on harness, and upward, and stood in their border. And they rose early in the morning, when the sun arose upon the water, and the Moabites saw the water over against them, as red as blood. And they said, This is blood, the kings are surely slain, and one hath smitten another. Now therefore, Moab, to the spoil. And when they came to the host of Israel, the Israelites arose up, and smote the Moabites, so that they fled before them. But they invaded them, and smote Moab. And they destroyed the cities. And on all the good field every man cast his stone, and filled them, and they stopped all the fountains of water, and felled all the good trees. Only in Kir-Hareseth left they the stones thereof. Howbeit they went about it with slings, and smote it. And when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too sore for him, he took with him 700 men that drew the sword, to break through unto the king of Edom. But they could not. Then he took his eldest son, that should have reigned in his stead, and offered him for a burnt offering upon the wall, so that Israel was sore grieved, and they departed from him, and returned to their country. 2 Kings chapter 4. And one of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant mine husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take my 2 sons to be his bondmen. Then Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou at home? And she said, Thine handmaid hath nothing at home, save a pitcher of oil. And he said, Go, and borrow thee vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, empty vessels, and spare not. And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and pour out into all those vessels, and set aside those that are full. So she departed from him, and shut the door upon her, and upon her sons. And they brought to her, and she poured out. And when the vessels were full, she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is no more vessels. And the oil ceased. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go, and sell the oil, and pay them that thou art in debt unto, and live thou and thy children of the rest. And on a time Elisha came to Shunem, and there a woman of great estimation constrained him to eat bread. And as he passed by, he turned in thither to eat bread. And she said unto her husband, Behold, I know now that this is a holy man of God that passeth by us continually. Let us make him a little chamber, I pray thee, with walls, and let us set him there a bed, and a table, and a stool, and a candlestick, that he may turn in thither when he cometh to us. And on a day he came thither, and turned into the chamber, and lay therein, and said to Gehazi his servant, Call this Shunammite. And when he called her, she stood before him. Then he said unto him, Say unto her now, Behold, thou hast had all this great care for us. What shall we do for thee? Is there anything to be spoken for thee to the king, or to the captain of the host? And she answered, I dwell among mine own people. Again he said, What is then to be done for her? Then Gehazi answered, Indeed, she hath no son, and her husband is old. Then said he, Call her. And he called her, and she stood in the door. And he said, At this time appointed, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said, O my lord, thou man of God, do not lie unto thine handmaid. So the woman conceived, and bore a son at that same season, according to the time of life that Elisha had said unto her. And when the child was grown, it fell on a day that he went out to his father, and to the reapers. And he said to his father, Mine head, mine head. Who said to his servant, Bear him to his mother. And he took him and brought him to his mother, and he sat on her knees till noon, and died. Then she went up, and laid him on the bed of the man of God, and shut the door upon him, and went out. Then she called to her husband, and said, Send with me, I pray thee, one of the young men, and one of the asses, for I will haste to the man of God, and come again. And he said, Wherefore wilt thou go to him today? It is neither new moon, nor Sabbath day. And she answered, All shall be well. Then she saddled an ass, and said to her servant, Drive, and go forward. Stay not for me to get up, except I bid thee. So she went, and came unto the man of God to Mount Carmel. And when the man of God saw her over against him, he said to Gehazi his servant, Behold, the Shunammite. Run now, I say, to meet her, and say unto her, Art thou in health? Is thine husband in health? And is the child in health? And she answered, We are in health. And when she came to the man of God unto the mountain, she caught him by his feet, and Gehazi went to her, to thrust her away. But the man of God said, Let her alone, for her soul is vexed within her, and the Lord hath hid it from me, and hath not told it me. Then she said, Did I desire a son of my Lord? Did I not say, Deceive me not? Then he said to Gehazi, Gird thy loins, and take my staff in thine hand, and go thy way. If thou meet any, salute him not, and if any salute thee, answer him not, and lay my staff upon the face of the child. And the mother of the child said, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. Therefore he arose, and followed her. But Gehazi was gone before them, and had laid the staff upon the face of the child, but he neither spake nor heard. Wherefore he returned to meet him, and told him, saying, The child is not waken. Then came Elisha into the house, and behold, the child was dead, and laid upon his bed. He went in therefore, and shut the door upon them twain, and prayed unto the Lord. After he went up, and lay upon the child, and put his mouth on his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands, and stretched himself upon him. And the flesh of the child waxed warm. And he went from him, and walked up and down in the house, and went up, and spread himself upon him. Then the child sneezed 7 times, and opened his eyes. Then he called Gehazi, and said, Call this Shunammite. So he called her, which came in unto him. And he said unto her, Take thy son. And she came, and fell at his feet, and bowed herself to the ground, and took up her son, and went out. Afterward Elisha returned to Gilgal, and a famine was in the land. And the children of the prophets dwelt with him. And he said unto his servant, Set on the great pot, and seethe pottage for the children of the prophets. And one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found as it were a wild vine, and gathered thereof wild gourds, his garment full, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, for they knew it not. So they poured out for the men to eat. And when they did eat of the pottage, they cried out, and said, O thou man of God, death is in the pot. and they could not eat thereof. Then he said, Bring meal. And he cast it into the pot, and said, Pour out for the people, that they may eat. And there was none evil in the pot. Then came a man from Baal-Shalisha, and brought the man of God bread of the firstfruits, even 20 loaves of barley, and full ears of corn in the husk. And he said, Give unto the people, that they may eat. And his servant answered, How should I set this before 100 men? He said again, Give it unto the people, that they may eat. For thus saith the Lord, They shall eat, and there shall remain. So he set it before them, and they did eat, and left over, according to the word of the Lord. 2 Kings chapter 5. Now was there one Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Aram, a great man, and honorable in the sight of his Lord, because that by him the Lord had delivered the Aramites. He also was a mighty man, and valiant, but a leper. And the Aramites had gone out by bands, and had taken a little maid of the land of Israel. And she served Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, Would God my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, he would soon deliver him of his leprosy. And he went in, and told his Lord, saying, Thus and thus saith the maid that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Aram said, Go thy way thither, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed, and took with him 10 talents of silver, and 6,000 pieces of gold, and 10 changes of raiments, and brought the letter to the king of Israel, to this effect. Now when this letter is come unto thee, understand that I have sent thee Naaman, my servant, that thou mayest heal him of his leprosy. And when the king of Israel had read the letter, he rent his clothes, and said, Am I God to kill and to give life, that he doth send to me that I should heal a man from his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me. But when Elisha, the man of God, had heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, he sent unto the king, saying, Wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. Then Naaman came with his horses, and with his chariots, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go, and wash thee in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be cleansed. But Naaman was wroth, and went away, and said, Behold, I thought with myself, he will surely come out, and stand, and call on the name of the Lord his God, and put his hand on the place, and heal the leprosy. Are not Abana and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash me in them, and be cleansed? So he turned, and departed in displeasure. But his servants came, and spake unto him, and said, Father, if the prophet had commanded thee a great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then, when he saith to thee, Wash and be clean? Then went he down, and washed himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh came again, like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. And he turned again to the man of God, he and all his company, and came and stood before him, and said, Behold now, I know that there is no God in all the world but in Israel. Now therefore, I pray thee, take a reward of thy servant. But he said, As the Lord liveth, before whom I stand, I will not receive it. And he would have constrained him to receive it, but he refused. Moreover, Naaman said, Shall there not be given to thy servant 2 mules' load of this earth? For thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt sacrifice nor offering unto any other god, save unto the Lord. Herein the Lord be merciful unto thy servant, that when my master goeth into the house of Rimmon, to worship there, and leaneth on mine hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, when I do bow down, I say, in the house of Rimmon, the Lord be merciful unto thy servant in this point. Unto whom he said, Go in peace. So he departed from him about a half a day's journey of ground. And Gehazi, the servant of Elisha the man of God, said, Behold, my master hath spared this Aramite Naaman, receiving not those things at his hand that he brought. As the Lord liveth, I will run after him, and take somewhat of him. So Gehazi followed speedily after Naaman, and when Naaman saw him running after him, he lighted down from the chariot to meet him, and said, Is all well? And he answered, All is well. My master hath sent me, saying, Behold, there be come to me even now from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the children of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver, and 2 changes of garments. And Naaman said, Yea, take 2 talents. And he compelled him, and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags, with 2 changes of garments, and gave them unto 2 of his servants, that they might bear them before him. And when he came to the tower, he took them out of their hands, and laid them in the house, and sent away the men, and they departed. Then he went in, and stood before his master. And Elisha said unto him, Whence comest thou, Gehazi? And he said, Thy servant went no whither. But he said unto him, Went not mine heart with thee, when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? Is this a time to take money, and to receive garments, and olives, and vineyards, and sheep, and oxen, and men servants, and maid servants? The leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave unto thee, and to thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence a leper, white as snow. 2 Kings chapter 6. And the children of the prophets said unto Elisha, Behold, we pray thee, the place where we dwell with thee is too little for us. Let us now go to Jordan, that we may take thence every man a beam, and make us a place to dwell in. And he answered, Go. And one said, Vouchsafe, I pray thee, to go with thy servants. And he answered, I will go. So he went with them. And when they came to Jordan, they cut down wood. And as one was felling of a tree, the iron fell into the water. Then he cried, and said, Alas, master, it was but borrowed. And the man of God said, Where fell it? And he showed him the place. Then he cut down a piece of wood, and cast in thither. And he caused the iron to swim. Then he said, Take it up to thee. And he stretched out his hand, and took it. Then the king of Aram warred against Israel, and took counsel with his servants, and said, In such and such a place shall be my camp. Therefore the man of God sent unto the king of Israel, saying, Beware thou not go over to such a place, for there the Aramites are come down. So the king of Israel sent to the place which the man of God told him, and warned him of, and saved himself from thence, not once nor twice. And the heart of the king of Aram was troubled for this thing. Therefore he called his servants, and said unto them, Will ye not show me which of us bewrayeth our counsel to the king of Israel? Then one of his servants said, None, my lord, O king, but Elijah the prophet, that is in Israel, telleth the king of Israel even the words that thou speakest in thy privy chamber. And he said, Go, and espy where he is, that I may send and fetch him. And one told him, saying, Behold, he is in Dothan. So he sent thither horses, and chariots, and a mighty host, and they came by night, and compassed the city. And when the servant of the man of God arose early to go out, behold, an host compassed the city with horses and chariots. Then his servant said unto him, Alas, master, how shall we do? And he answered, Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. Then Elisha prayed, and said, Lord, I beseech thee, open his eyes, that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the servant, and he looked, and behold, the mountain was full of horses, and chariots of fire round about Elisha. So they came down to him. But Elisha prayed unto the Lord, and said, Smite this people, I pray thee, with blindness. And he smote them with blindness, according to the word of Elisha. And Elisha said unto them, This is not the way, neither is this the city. Follow me, and I will lead you to the man whom ye seek. But he led them to Samaria. And when they were come to Samaria, Elisha said, Lord, open their eyes, that they may see. And the Lord opened their eyes, and they saw, and behold, they were in the midst of Samaria. And the king of Israel said unto Elisha, when he saw them, My father, shall I smite them? Shall I smite them? And he answered, Thou shalt not smite them. Doest thou not smite them that thou hast taken with thy sword and with thy bow? But set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink, and go to their master. And he made great preparation for them. And when they had eaten and drunken, he sent them away, and they went to their master. So the bands of Aram came no more into the land of Israel. But afterward Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, gathered all his host, and went up and besieged Samaria. So there was a great famine in Samaria, for lo, they besieged it until an ass's head was at 80 pieces of silver, and the 4th part of a cab of dove's dung at 5 pieces of silver. And as the king of Israel was going upon the wall, there cried a woman unto him, saying, Help, my lord, O king. And he said, Seeing the Lord doth not succor thee, how should I help thee with the barn, or with the winepress? Also the king said unto her, What aileth thee? And she answered, This woman said unto me, Give thy son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. So we sod my son, and did eat him. And I said to her the day after, Give thy son, that we may eat him. But she hath hid her son. And when the king had heard the words of the woman, he rent his clothes. And as he went upon the wall, the people looked, and behold, he had sackcloth within upon his flesh. And he said, God do so to me and more also, if the head of Elisha the son of Shaphat shall stand on him this day. Now Elisha sat in his house, and the elders sat with him. And the king sent a man before him. But before the messenger came to him, he said to the elders, See ye not how this murderer's son hath sent to take away mine head? Take heed, when the messenger cometh, and shut the door, and handle him roughly at the door. Is not the sound of his master's feet behind him? While he yet talked with them, behold, the messenger came down unto him, and said, Behold, this evil cometh of the Lord. Should I attend on the Lord any longer? 2 Kings chapter 7. Then Elisha said, Hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, Tomorrow this time a measure of fine flour shall be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria. Then a prince, on whose hand the king leaned, answered the man of God, and said, Though the Lord would make windows in the heaven, could this thing come to pass? And he said, Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not eat thereof. Now there were 4 leprous men at the entering in of the gate, and they said one to another, Why sit we here until we die? If we say, We will enter into the city, the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we die also. Now therefore come, and let us fall into the camp of the Aramites. If they save our lives, we shall live, and if they kill us, we are but dead. So they rose up in the twilight to go to the camp of the Aramites. And when they were come to the utmost part of the camp of the Aramites, lo, there was no man there. For the Lord had caused the camp of the Aramites to hear a noise of chariots, and a noise of horses, and a noise of a great army, so that they said one to another, Behold, the king of Israel hath hired against us the kings of the Hittites, and the kings of the Egyptians, to come upon us. Wherefore they arose, and fled in the twilight, and left their tents, and their horses, and their asses, even the camp, as it was, and fled for their lives. And when these lepers came to the utmost part of the camp, they entered into one tent, and did eat and drink, and carried thence silver and gold and raiment, and went and hid it. After they returned, and entered into another tent, and carried thence also, and went and hid it. Then said one to another, We do not well. This day is a day of good tidings, and we hold our peace. If we tarry till daylight, some mischief will come upon us. Now therefore come, let us go and tell the king's household. So they came and called unto the porters of the city, and told them, saying, We came to the camp of the Aramites, and lo, there was no man there, neither voice of man, but horses tied, and asses tied, and the tents are as they were. And the porters cried, and declared to the king's house within. Then the king arose in the night, and said unto his servants, I will show you now what the Aramites have done unto us. They know that we are famished, therefore they are gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the field, saying, When they come out of the city, we shall catch them alive, and get into the city. And one of his servants answered, and said, Let me take now 5 of the horses that remain, and are left in the city. Behold, they are even as all the multitude of Israel that are left therein. Behold, I say, they are as the multitude of the Israelites that are consumed, and we will send to see. So they took 2 chariots of horses, and the king sent after the host of the Aramites, saying, Go and see. And they went after them unto Jordan. And lo, all the way was full of clothes and vessels which the Aramites had cast from them in their haste. And the messengers returned, and told the king. Then the people went out, and spoiled the camp of the Aramites. So a measure of fine flour was at a shekel, and 2 measures of barley at a shekel, according to the word of the Lord. And the king gave the prince, on whose hand he leaned, the charge of the gate, and the people trode upon him in the gate, and he died, as the man of God had said, which spake it when the king came down to him. And it came to pass, as the man of God had spoken to the king, saying, 2 measures of barley at a shekel, and a measure of fine flour shall be at a shekel, tomorrow about this time in the gate of Samaria. But the prince had answered the man of God, and said, Though the Lord would make windows in the heaven, could it come so to pass? And he said, Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not eat thereof. And so it came unto him. For the people trode upon him in the gate, and he died. 2 Kings chapter 8. Then spake Elisha unto the woman, whose son he had restored to life, saying, Up, and go thou, and thine house, and sojourn where thou canst sojourn. For the Lord hath called for a famine, and it cometh also upon the land 7 years. And the woman arose, and did after the saying of the man of God, and went both she and her household, and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And at the 7 years' end, the woman returned out of the land of the Philistines, and went out to call upon the king for her house, and for her land. And the king talked with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, Tell me, I pray thee, all the great acts that Elisha hath done. And as he told the king how he had restored one dead to life, behold, the woman, whose son he had raised to life, called upon the king for her house and for her land. Then Gehazi said, My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life. And when the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed her an eunuch, saying, Restore thou all that are hers, and all the fruits of her land, since the day she left the land, even until this time. Then Elisha came to Damascus, and Ben-Hadad, the king of Aram, was sick. And one told him, saying, The man of God is come hither. And the king said unto Hazael, Take a present in thine hand, and go meet the man of God, that thou mayest inquire of the Lord by him, saying, Shall I recover of this disease? So Hazael went to meet him, and took the present in his hand, and of every good thing of Damascus, even the burden of 40 camels, and came and stood before him, and said, Thy son Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, hath sent me to thee, saying, Shall I recover of this disease? And Elisha said to him, Go and say unto him, Thou shalt recover. Howbeit the Lord hath showed me that he shall surely die. And he looked upon him steadfastly, till Hazael was ashamed, and the man of God wept. And Hazael said, Why weepeth my lord? And he answered, Because I know the evil that thou shalt do unto the children of Israel. For their strong cities shalt thou set on fire, and their young men shalt thou slay with the sword, and shalt dash their infants against the stones, and rent in pieces their women with child. Then Hazael said, What? Is thy servant a dog that I should do this great thing? And Elisha answered, The Lord hath showed me that thou shalt be king of Aram. So he departed from Elisha, and came to his master, who said to him, What said Elisha to thee? And he answered, He told me that thou shouldest recover. And on the morrow he took a thick cloth, and dipped it in water, and spread it on his face, and he died. And Hazael reigned in his stead. Now in the 5th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, and of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 32 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. And he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, as did the house of Ahab. For the daughter of Ahab was his wife, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord. Yet the Lord would not destroy Judah, for David his servant's sake, as he had promised him to give him a light, and to his children forever. In those days Edom rebelled from under the hand of Judah, and made a king over themselves. Therefore Joram went to Zair, and all his chariots with him, and he arose by night, and smote the Edomites which were about him, with the captains of the chariots, and the people fled into their tents. So Edom rebelled from under the hand of Judah unto this day. Then Libnah rebelled at that same time. Concerning the rest of the acts of Joram, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Joram slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. In the 12th year of Joram the son of Ahab, king of Israel, did Ahaziah the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, begin to reign. 22 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. And he walked in the way of the house of Ahab, and did evil in the sight of the Lord, like the house of Ahab, for he was the son-in-law of the house of Ahab. And he went with Joram the son of Ahab to war against Hazael king of Aram in Ramoth-Gilead. And the Aramites smote Joram. And King Joram returned to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Aramites had given him at Ramah, when he fought against Hazael king of Aram. And Ahaziah the son of Jehoram king of Judah went down to see Joram the son of Ahab in Jezreel, because he was sick. 2 Kings chapter 9. Then Elisha the prophet called one of the children of the prophets, and said unto him, Gird thy loins, and take this box of oil in thine hand, and get thee to Ramoth-Gilead. And when thou comest thither, look where is Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, and go and make him arise up from among his brethren, and lead him to a secret chamber. Then take the box of oil, and pour it on his head, and say, Thus saith the Lord, I have anointed thee for king over Israel. Then open the door, and flee without any tarrying. So the servant of the prophet got him to Ramoth-Gilead. And when he came in, behold, the captains of the army were sitting, and he said, I have a message to thee, O captain. And Jehu said, Unto which of all us? And he answered, To thee, O captain. And he arose, and went into the house, and he poured the oil on his head, and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I have anointed thee for king over the people of the Lord, even over Israel. And thou shalt smite the house of Ahab thy master, that I may avenge the blood of my servants the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of the Lord of the hand of Jezebel. For the whole house of Ahab shall be destroyed, and I will cut off from Ahab him that maketh water against the wall, as well him that is shut up, as him that is left in Israel. And I will make the house of Ahab like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahijah. And the dogs shall eat Jezebel in the field of Jezreel, and there shall be none to bury her. And he opened the door, and fled. Then Jehu came out to the servants of his lord, and one said unto him, Is all well? Wherefore came this mad fellow to thee? And he said unto them, Ye know the man, and what his talk was. And they said, It is false, tell us it now. Then he said, Thus and thus spake he to me, saying, Thus saith the Lord, I have anointed thee for king over Israel. Then they made haste, and took every man his garment, and put it under him on the top of the stairs, and blew the trumpet, saying, Jehu is king. So Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi, conspired against Joram. Now Joram kept Ramoth-Gilead, he and all Israel, because of Hazael king of Aram. And King Joram returned to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds which the Aramites had given him, when he fought with Hazael king of Aram. And Jehu said, If it be your minds, let no man depart and escape out of the city, to go and tell in Jezreel. So Jehu got up into a chariot, and went to Jezreel, for Joram lay there. And Ahaziah, king of Judah, was come down to see Joram. And the watchman that stood in the tower in Jezreel spied the company of Jehu as he came, and said, I see a company. And Jehoram said, Take a horseman, and send to meet them, that he may say, Is it peace? So there went one on horseback to meet him, and said, Thus saith the king, Is it peace? And Jehu said, What hast thou to do with peace? Turn behind me. And the watchman told, saying, The messenger came to them, but he cometh not again. Then he sent out another on horseback, which came to them and said, Thus saith the king, Is it peace? And Jehu answered, What hast thou to do with peace? Turn behind me. And the watchman told, saying, He came to them also, but cometh not again. And the marching is like the marching of Jehu the son of Nimshi, for he marcheth furiously. Then Jehoram said, Make ready. And his chariot was made ready. And Jehoram king of Israel, and Ahaziah king of Judah, went out either of them in his chariot against Jehu, and met him in the field of Naboth the Jezreelite. And when Jehoram saw Jehu, he said, Is it peace, Jehu? And he answered, What peace, whilst the whoredoms of thy mother Jezebel and her witchcrafts are yet in great number? Then Jehoram turned his hand, and fled, and said to Ahaziah, O Ahaziah, there is treason. But Jehu took a bow in his hand, and smote Jehoram between the shoulders, that the arrow went through his heart. And he fell down in his chariot. Then said Jehu to Bidkar, a captain, Take, and cast him in some place of the field of Naboth the Jezreelite. For I remember that when I and thou rode together after Ahab his father, the Lord laid this burden upon him. Surely I have seen yesterday the blood of Naboth, and the blood of his sons, said the Lord, and I will render it thee in this field, saith the Lord. Now therefore take and cast him in the field according to the word of the Lord. But when Ahaziah, the king of Judah, saw this, he fled by the way of the garden house. And Jehu pursued after him, and said, Smite him also in the chariot. And they smote him in the going up to Gur, which is by Ibleam. And he fled to Megiddo, and there died. And his servants carried him in a chariot to Jerusalem, and buried him in his sepulchre, with his fathers in the city of David. And in the 11th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, began Ahaziah to reign over Judah. And when Jehu was come to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and painted her face, and tired her head, and looked out at a window. And as Jehu entered at the gate, she said, Had Zimri peace which slew his master? And he lifted up his eyes to the window, and said, Who is on my side? Who? Then 2 or 3 of her eunuchs looked unto him. And he said, Cast her down. And they cast her down, and he sprinkled of her blood upon the wall, and upon the horses, and he trode her under foot. And when he was come in, he did eat and drink, and said, Visit now yonder cursed woman, and bury her, for she is a king's daughter. And they went to bury her, but they found no more of her than the skull and the feet, and the palms of her hands. Wherefore they came again and told him. And he said, This is the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, In the field of Jezreel shall the dogs eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the carcass of Jezebel shall be as dung upon the ground in the field of Jezreel, so that none shall say, This is Jezebel. 2 Kings, chapter 13. In the 23rd year of Joash, the son of Ahaziah, king of Judah, Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, began to reign over Israel in Samaria, and he reigned 17 years. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord, and followed the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin, and departed not therefrom. And the Lord was angry with Israel, and delivered them into the hand of Hazael, king of Aram, and into the hand of Ben-Hadad, the son of Hazael, all his days. And Jehoahaz besought the Lord, and the Lord heard him, for he saw the trouble of Israel wherewith the king of Aram troubled them. And the Lord gave Israel a deliverer, so that they came out from under the subjection of the Aramites, and the children of Israel dwelt in their tents, as beforetime. Nevertheless, they departed not from the sins of the house of Jeroboam, which made Israel sin, but walked in them. Even the grove also remained still in Samaria. For he had left of the people to Jehoahaz but 50 horsemen, and 10 chariots, and 10,000 footmen, because the king of Aram had destroyed them, and made them like dust, beaten to powder. Concerning the rest of the acts of Jehoahaz, and all that he did, and his valiant deeds, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Jehoahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Samaria, and Joash his son reigned in his stead. In the 37th year of Joash king of Judah began Jehoash the son of Jehoahaz to reign over Israel in Samaria, and reigned 16 years, and did evil in the sight of the Lord. For he departed not from all the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, that made Israel to sin, but he walked therein. Concerning the rest of the acts of Joash, and all that he did, and his valiant deeds, and how he fought against Amaziah king of Judah, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Joash slept with his fathers, and Jeroboam sat upon his seat. And Joash was buried in Samaria among the kings of Israel. When Elisha fell sick of his sickness whereof he died, Joash the king of Israel came down unto him, and wept upon his face, and said, O my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen of the same. Then Elisha said unto him, Take a bow and arrows. And he took unto him bow and arrows, and he said to the king of Israel, Put thine hand upon the bow. And he put his hand upon it, and Elisha put his hands upon the king's hands, and said, Open the window eastward. And when he had opened it, Elisha said, Shoot. And he shot, and he said, Behold, the arrow of the Lord's deliverance, and the arrow of deliverance against Aram. For thou shalt smite the Aramites in Aphek, till thou hast consumed them. Again he said, Take the arrows. And he took them, and he said unto the king of Israel, Smite the ground. And he smote thrice, and ceased. Then the man of God was angry with him, and said, Thou shouldest have smitten 5 or 6 times, so thou shouldest have smitten Aram, till thou hadst consumed it. Where now thou shalt smite Aram but thrice. So Elisha died, and they buried him. And certain bands of the Moabites came into the land that year. And as they were burying a man, behold, they saw the soldiers. Therefore they cast the man into the sepulchre of Elisha. And when the man was down, and touched the bones of Elisha, he revived, and stood upon his feet. But Hazael king of Aram vexed Israel all the days of Jehoahaz. Therefore the Lord had mercy on them, and pitied them, and had respect unto them, because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and would not destroy them. Neither cast he them from him as yet. So Hazael the king of Aram died, and Ben-Hadad, his son, reigned in his stead. Therefore Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, returned, and took out of the hand of Ben-Hadad the son of Hazael the cities which he had taken away by war, out of the hand of Jehoahaz his father. For 3 times did Joash beat him, and restored the cities unto Israel.